All right. Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? Got a little coffee break, some networking in there. My name is Blake Chisholm. I work for AWS Professional Services. I lead our global practices. And you are in the right spot. I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun this afternoon. This is the Cloud-Enabled Transformation panel. We've put together a really great group of folks from some different areas, different vertical markets, different international markets. So we have 3 countries represented in our 4 panelists today. And we are excited to launch into this. I'm going to allow each of these panelists to kind of introduce themselves, their organization, and talk a little bit about what they're doing with AWS and the cloud in general. And we'll go from there into our panel discussion. So, Tom, start with you.
Good afternoon. So my name is Tom Schaeffer. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the State of Minnesota IT Services. We oversee all of the executive branch, which includes 70 agencies, boards, and commissions for the state of Minnesota, which includes all of the infrastructure and operations, which is actually under my purview, but all of the applications as well. So AWS has been a big change for us over the last year. And it's definitely an organization that has a lot of challenges, a lot of opportunities for conversion, and we'll get into that in the panel a little bit. But one thing I do want to talk about a little bit in the intro is that the state of Minnesota services all the citizens of the state of Minnesota. So we have a lot of different services that we render to the state and a lot of different applications that have a lot of challenges, as a lot of you probably have in your organizations, funding, aging infrastructure, aging applications, and using this opportunity, working with Amazon and others other partners to transform our organization to be a more modern and agile organization for how we deliver IT services. But in the end, it's really a cultural transformation for us. It's about how do we change the people that do the work. It's about how do we change the delivery of the services. But ultimately, it's about how we deliver the services to the citizens of the state of Minnesota. So that is really what our transformation has been about. It's all about the people. It's all about changing how we deliver that. And for my organization, the infrastructure and operations, we run the data centers, the servers, the networks, the firewalls, all the different kind of back-end infrastructure that runs all the IT services, and trying to figure out and work through the services in a way that we can be more agile. Cloud's been a transformational opportunity for us, and it's changing how we deliver those services. And actually, it's about also changing how we deliver those services from a cost model, from a CapEx buy infrastructure model to an OpEx, pay-as-you-go model. And it's been a huge change for us. And finally, the big thing that we've done recently is build out a true governance model for how we deliver cloud services. And in the end, my 2 cents on this panel will be cloud can be done in 2 ways. You can get cloud chaos and let everybody kind of do their own thing, or you can put a structure around it which is still agile and still has the flexibility, but ultimately will deliver a better service to our customers, which is IT in some respects, but really is our citizens, which are the customers that get the services from the state of Minnesota.
Great, Tom, thank you very much. So our next panelist is our first international panelist here, and this is Iñaki, and I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming along here today. My name's Iñaki de Davara. I'm from Spain. My professional background is business and technology. I'm the Chief Information Officer for Santillana Group. Santillana is the leading publishing group in Latin American K-12 marketplace. It is based in 22 countries with headquarters in Spain. Santillana is helping to transform education in our markets. Santillana is helping to transform education in their markets with the implementation of new learning methods with the help of technology solutions. Today, we have around 50 technology solutions in a product portfolio with almost 2.5 million users in these ecosystems. There are no other implementation in all Latin America like this. Santillana is focused on how to create educational solutions with high performance but cost effective, with the help of the best of development methods and the use of the cloud. That means that we are very familiar with the use of the cloud. We have been using the majority of Amazon Web Services for the last 6 years. Our development teams and operational teams are running educational solutions focused on how to create a good architecture focused on cloud. And today, I would like to explain to all of you how to help transforming educational technology with the use of cloud computing.
Great. Iñaki, thank you very much. Al?
Hi, folks. My name's Al. I'm a Canadian. These days, we kind of refer to ourselves as snow Mexicans in a very kind way. You know, just in our trade affairs and all those good things that we're dealing with that white building down the road there these days. So that's about as far as I'm allowed to get in trouble on that. So you'll have to fill in the blanks thereafter. I'm a former soldier in Canada. I fought alongside your wonderful army here in the United States and many other armies around the world in combat 4 times, and I'm a cybersecurity expert. I carried my security skills in the military into cyber warfare and then into the IP-based realm. Had my own ISP back in the 90s, and I've been in the defense security realm ever since. I got out of the Army back in 2000, or just before 1999. And I've been working in the defense security realm at a national security level and at the level of technology implications on the national security agenda ever since. And so I was the CEO of a cybersecurity company about 3 years ago, and I stepped out of that to create an entity called CyberNB with the support of my premier in the province of New Brunswick in Canada. We have a very rich history in security in that region. We were the founders of the University of New Brunswick and a very rich history in information security there. That is actually the place where Q1 Radar, Q1 products, IBM's Q1 Radar product was built and is continuing to be built today. There's about 450 IBMers up the hill in our society there, and we're well known for IT incubation and we're the startup capital of Canada last 2 years running. So very innovation focused, et cetera. And so I have this agenda at CyberNB. It's all about a complete holistic commitment to cybersecurity. And we have a strategic framework that breaks down into 5 key areas. The 5 key areas are in the economic development agenda in the context of cluster development, collaboration with industry, et cetera, around key priorities that we're trying to accomplish as a country or as a society. At the provincial level, we do most of the securing of our critical infrastructure, et cetera, much like the states. But we have a very targeted agenda around securing our economy as we build more and more on the internet. And so we're collaborating with industry very effectively on a strategy to manage IoT implications on our businesses in a structured, measurable way, with a security agenda that overlays on that IoT agenda. So looking at the OT frameworks, so the manufacturing and operational frameworks and the IT frameworks, et cetera, and how that meshes together so we get better monitoring, better capabilities, better insights for better decision making on what we do with threats and threat management as we go forward. That's one area. The next area is an incubator. We run an incubator that is like a dragon's den, if you will, Shark's Tank in the US, that gives about 125 USD to the accredited or accepted incubators in cybersecurity, or companies that want to go into our incubator in cybersecurity, and then follow them through with Series A financing, et cetera. Next is we're home to the Canadian Institute for Cybersecurity. We have the highest concentration of cybersecurity assets in the country that are postdoc. And we're working with the defense national security agenda all the way through a bunch of small startup companies and all the major players in the middle around research and development, if you will, at a national and international level. We've got agreements in place with Israel, UK, US entities as we speak, and growing. We also have what's called the Cybersecurity New Brunswick, which is it's really the critical infrastructure protection. So extending a structured format around our critical infrastructure agenda to secure our assets and do the best we can with the mounting cyber threats as an extension of emergency measures, right? So when you think of storms and what impact they have on our society, we look at cyber the same way. It affects everything, right? So we just extend out our emergency measures organization and we look at how we're collaborating with industry to create a command level SOC that extends down into the SOCs of each of the critical infrastructure players themselves. And then the magic is yet to happen, and that we're just starting in the ConOps is how we collaborate from a policy perspective that allows the right sharing of information to happen, which is where the magic and the challenge is, right? And then finally, it's all about education. And my good friend sitting to the right of me mentioned, the commitment to education. And with me in the room, I have a tremendous partner in the business that we'll highlight throughout the discussion today. But we have a commitment to overhaul our education system from K all the way through our university agenda to bring in digital literacy. We've got IoT kits in schools. We're doing some amazing things in that regard. Very, very proud of our agenda, what we're doing. And then we're overlaying on that hacker and sort of security agendas to bring awareness to each and every child as they're going through the education system, but also to the parents, the teachers, and the others that are involved in the community. So we have a security awareness agenda we're building as well. So you can see it's a very holistic agenda. Our intent, we're a small province. We represent about 3% of the population in Canada, but we've always been, for 25 years, we were fiber to the home 25 years ago to everybody. We've been an incubator, a sandbox, and what we do best, because we own from nuclear all the way down to standard power generation, right to on-prem devices under one company, the ability to integrate and test and develop, leading systems. And so that's our intent, is continue to do that in the cloud as we go forward.
Great. Thank you very much, Al. Justin?
Yeah. My name is Justin Roop. I work for GlobalGiving, which is a nonprofit. We're based out of DC, right here. We connect donors in the US, UK, basically anywhere in the world, but those are the countries we have presence in, to projects on the ground all around the world. Those projects, we work with them, we vet them, we make sure that they're legitimate, and then we list them, and people come to us, and they can look up the information about those projects, and then donate to them, and we direct the money to the ground, and then we direct back to those donors information about what's going on with that project. In AWS, we sort of are taking an initiative to expand ourselves globally. Before, and I'm sure plenty of other people do, we were just in a colo in one location, but we have customers all around the world that we need to deal with. So we use the cloud to expand out. We're also doing a lot of automation now in terms of all that data that we're getting in from projects and from donors and other things, where we can automatically sift through that data and make decisions based upon it. Another place that we're greatly using the cloud that we love is workspaces. We're using that to reduce a lot of our costs and things. And I'd love to tell you all about that, and we'll go over a whole bunch of those cost savings.
Okay, thank you very much. So as you can see, we have panelists from a lot of different places, different geographical locations, countries, different vertical markets, education, nonprofit. I think Al told us he was going to teach us how to secure our socks. Is that what you were talking about? So good, let's launch into this. Each of our organizations have challenges, and one of the things that is a driver for technology is how we use that technology to address those challenges, to overcome them, and to ultimately drive the business and mission outcomes of the organization. So the first question is really, what are some of the organizations, some of the challenges that your organization has, and how have you overcome those with the use of the cloud?
I'll go first. So definitely, as I said in the intro, it's a big transformation for the state of Minnesota to change a model that is historic, right? You have an on-premise data center or multiple of them as we do, and have kind of operational procedures that are very rigid for how we deal with these things. So when you bring in something disruptive like the cloud, it definitely brings a culture shift to the organization. And actually, it's a really good culture shift. It's something that probably should have been shaken up in the on-prem model years ago, but wasn't because there wasn't a reason for the disruption. Cloud services have definitely brought a change in how we look at services for the citizens of the state of Minnesota. It also gives us the ability to change from a true capital outlay, CapEx model to an operational model, where we're actually paying as we go instead of having to do large upfront data center remodels, large infrastructure replacements. But probably the biggest change for us was really an operational change in how our staff deal with delivering IT services. And when I say our staff, I'm talking for the state of Minnesota, that's not just my organization, which is really the infrastructure and operations, the data center operations type people, and the server operations type people, but it's bringing in, and we've partnered with our application development teams, truly trying to bring what I would consider to be an overused word, but DevOps to the table, trying to integrate the teams together so they know what each other are doing, and we don't have the model of throwing infrastructure over the wall to app dev, and then when it doesn't work, they throw it back, and you're playing a game of tennis. So we've changed a lot of that model to work together, understand what the needs are. And one of the things that definitely we learned from that is we also need to partner with our business partners, the actual business agencies in the state of Minnesota that deliver the citizens their services, because ultimately IT can't be there for IT's sake, it's got to be there for what the end product is. And so we've actually partnered not only with internal IT folks between operations and application development, but we've brought business to the table to make sure that they understand what they're asking for and what we can deliver from an IT perspective, but also trying to change the model where we're bringing innovative ideas to them for how they can deliver their mission, and not just have them bring their ideas to us and we deliver not just an order taker model, but truly transform the order process and giving our customers, ultimately the citizens of the state of Minnesota, a better solution and delivering in a timely manner because we can get the infrastructure and the application development faster because of the cloud.
Yeah, I think transformation, what's it done for us and change? It's, let's face it, the cloud is bringing a much more accessible environment. It's cheaper. It's much more scalable. We can push it to areas we could never get on-prem type services to in the past, right? So the way the cloud's actually working for us, specifically, I'll get into the education system. Sitting down in the audience, I want to recognize one of our partners. This is your plug, buddy. This is Mike LeBlanc, the CEO. You just raised your hand there. He's with a company called Blue Spurs. They're an AWS partner. As a government entity where I'm working with the academics, we put together IoT kits, and with a low-code middleware called Noodle out of Sweden. We have an exclusive relationship with them. And what we're doing with the IoT, with AWS IoT on the back end, is we brought low-code tools, hands-on tools, into the education system in the K-12 arena. What it does is it moves it out of just a STEM-only type discussion, and it puts it into the hands of young women, young men, boys and girls, all the way down to grade 7 at this point is our intent. We ran the prototypes last year, and we're going full scale this September. And what it does is it actually brings curriculum. It's all got embedded curriculum in it. It brings all of this together in a project-based sort of collaborative learning environment. It's very easy for the teachers to adopt and understand. It's very practical. It's real-world applications from, a simple light, like a Philips Hue light, to a very complex. We could have a car dashboard in there in a grade 12 with complex boards, et cetera. But, a simple Arduino board and this middleware that's codeless, low code. Well, it's not completely codeless, but very low code stress, so you can open it up. And that transformation, what it's done is, listen, I wish I could play the videos. I did send you a slide, we couldn't get it in, but play a video that I've got of the kids and what's happened. They don't want to leave the classroom. They don't want to leave the labs. The teachers are enjoying their jobs. They love what's happening. They see the engagement of the students at a whole different level. And, you know, I'm running a cybersecurity agenda, so why is that important? Is that digital literacy first is paramount. We need a society that's digitally literate. The cloud is how to get there. Educate 2.0 and where that's going, and what it's missing, frankly, is that practical application right now. That's the only thing it needs. Once we get to that, our kids will move faster than we can, right? That's what's going to happen, and that's what we need to make. We need to keep it simple. So the application, the comments that were made about being user-focused, making it easy for the users, and being outcome-focused is where what it's all about. And I think that's what the cloud's doing for us, is making it super easy. And we've got these practical applications, and that's the mix that we collectively have as a society, as leaders in our society at our age group where we are now, for the next generation, is to make it simple and bring it home in real world applications, and to tie that around this code structure that we've got built around. You all have to learn how to code only. Well, that's not necessarily true. I think we just need to leverage the environment, the cloud, for what it is, and give them practical examples like the one I was just talking about in IoT kits. And if you want to talk to somebody who's extraordinary, the company, the partner working in US and Canada, it's Mike LeBlanc and his team at Blue Spurs, and tremendous job.
One of the first problems that GlobalGiving used the cloud to sort of do some transformation and overcome one of our key problems was in our field travelers. We send people out to the field, out to different projects on the ground all around the world to evaluate the projects, see how they're doing. And we had a lot of problem with how those people could connect back to our systems. You know, aside from that, they may not have great internet connectivity. When they do have internet connectivity, you know, it's about, well, do they feel safe enough to pull out their laptops where they are? Do they want to lug them around through the jungle with them or wherever they're going? You know, what can we provide them with so that they're able to input reports or communicate back to our team back in our office? And we were able to use Amazon Workspaces to make it so that they had a computer they could get into remotely that had all the capabilities, that was connected into the right networks. And then with them, they could take a much slimmer hardware with them. They didn't need to have all the right software on it. They didn't even need to have a very powerful machine. They could take a very slim, couple $100 piece of hardware that just as long as they were able to pick up internet connection somewhere, or if they were in a country where, you know, that computer could have a LTE or something like that to connect into the internet, then they could connect in the systems and they could do what they needed to. And that worked really well for us. It was a lot better than our initial way to solve this, which was to send them off with VPN software, and then we had to solve problems of their connectivity with that. And then inevitably they'd be out there long enough that their passwords expired, and we just didn't have a very good system in place for how they could reset that password or change it every 90 days. So Workspaces made that a lot easier for us. Another problem we had, which I briefly mentioned before, which is just reaching our customers, getting data and the website closer to them. You know, just being in Virginia, if you're in Japan trying to use our website, it functioned, but you know, we could have a better experience for you. So, you know, initially just using CloudFront to get assets closer to you, and then eventually using EC2 and actually being in regions closer to our customers to provide them with a much better user experience. And then lastly is just sort of freeing up people's time. We're able to take tasks that people were doing and break them out into things like, we created a whole bunch of Lambda functions and strung them together with step functions. And then we're able to take tasks that people were doing that were very time consuming, but not necessarily super complicated, but were just, you know, taking up a lot of a human's time. And we're able to run them through those systems and free up our employees' time to do other tasks, either more complex tasks or just get more done in less time.
Okay. In contrast, we don't have any technological challenge. No, I was teasing. Of course, we have a lot of technological challenges. Today, we are not only delivering content, we are delivering solutions. It's completely different. We are implementing in the K-12 marketplace in Latin America things like discovery learning, adaptive learning, assessment tools, learning dashboards, and something like that. Of course, we are using content inside, but not only. In this sense, the typical problems are very traditional problems. But in this sense, we are not only had to manage hundreds of users or thousands of users. We had to manage millions of users in the whole Latin American countries. In this sense, high availability is a problem. The use of multi-zone and multi-region is fundamental. Everyone knows about multi-region. How many people here are using, in fact, multi-region? Okay, just 3. That's it. Okay. But it's a very traditional problem, high availability. And only 3 people here is using multi-region. Okay. The second challenge is a very traditional challenge, performance. We are running educational solutions with an intensive use of data, and we are running as well a very complex multimedia content in our solutions. Then the performance is very important for us, because I cannot imagine an assessment tool down when a student is running an assessment nationwide. It is not possible to have the system down at this moment. Another problem is that we are based in 22 countries. We are based in the whole American geography, and in Portugal and Spain as well. Then we had to distribute globally our components. It's very useful as well, things like S3 and something like that. And finally, you had to take into account cost constraints. In other words, you had to cover the functionality that is required, but take into account as well the cost. For the last ones, the use of auto-scaling is fundamental. Okay, this is the main challenge. We don't have any problem to use cloud computing. In fact, we are using today cloud computing to overcome these challenges. And there is no other way to solve problems, these kind of things, without cloud computing.
You know, Iñaki, I didn't want to brag, but I work for a little company that does use multi-region. We've got 16 regions. We're using 42 AZs and like 68 POPs. So we're there with you.
Just to add to that, Blake, it's fantastic to have the Canadian region open. Thanks for doing that this year to everybody. But I really want to bring all the services to Canada really soon too, right? Get them all there. That's really important for us in our agenda. I think in digital literacy, and as you know, as a country, we're about to spend $1 billion on innovation in the AI space and others. Yep. It's time right now to push that cloud region to the full max, right? For your own business, I think it's a great thing, but certainly a huge opportunity.
Well, absolutely, and a redundant region in Canada, right? GovCloud has been asking that for a long time. We got it today. So good, great feedback. And
well, while we're talking about regions that we'd like to see more services in, I'd like to just see a region somewhere in Africa, actually, would be super helpful. And then obviously I'm going to need all the services there, redundancy, and just build a whole bunch of stuff there. If you could, can you get on that right now?
Yeah, I'm on it. I got my pen here. I'm taking notes. Yeah. That is a glaring hole in our map when you look at it, Europe and the Middle East.
And Antarctica. I mean, you don't have anything down there either.
Yeah. Good. So security for everybody is ground zero. You heard most of the discussion at the keynote today was all about security and how important it is. So specifically, when speaking about your organization, how have you leveraged cloud to transform the way that you're doing security?
I think I want to jump on that one first. This is a really big one.
Might know something about it.
So I'm so proud of this. First off, one of the number one challenges we have collectively in our societies, no matter if it's Canadian or around the world, is to bring along the small, medium business sector, right? Which is the mom and pops and and the smaller community up to 50 sort of employee base that can't afford, I lose the mic there, can't afford to have you know, a full-time IT staff and understand the word security, a server, or anything about the cloud, right? So that challenge as we go forward, I think, is a big hole. We found a tremendous solution in Cyber Essentials in the UK, which is a security standard, if you will. They've actually mandated it in all of government across the country there. You must have this certification. They made some terrible mistakes in the implementation of it over the last 4 years, but did a tremendous job identifying an open standard that all of us around the world can leverage into you know, helping this portion of our society. And it really does speak to literacy again, and understanding the need for security in that digital agenda as you go forward. So Cyber Essentials, we ported it to Canada. We launched April 3rd on AWS. It was sitting over on an Azure platform in the UK when they converted it as well. You'll be happy to know.
Never heard of them.
Yeah, so they converted because we had such great success in putting it into a multilingual or multi-language environment. We have it in French and in English, which is important in our country. We're a bilingual country. So we have it in French and in English, and the service is up and running, full services on AWS. And now we are able to track, as they're completing the self-assessment portions of the cybersecurity agenda, this very simplistic tool that they're following along with. We can track where they're getting help, what types of questions they're asking, when they're reaching out to third parties to get help, because they can do that all through the tool. And it basically walks them, handholds them through a very, very important process that gives us insight into what is the real cyber posture of our country. When in Canada, 98% of our country is made up of small and medium businesses, so we can't ignore that. It's a very important thing. So it gives us, so now we're able to run analytics on the data as we start to implement it, all in the cloud, right? All running in AWS, the entire environment, to give us insights that we've never had on our society around the cyber posture and what we need to do from a policy, regulation, incentives, funding, research, et cetera, to better the agenda. I can't think of a more transformative outcome, you know, for our country, given the importance and pervasive impact it's got and application of the cloud than that one for us in the security agenda. So thanks for letting me go first.
Can I hop in there? Because state of Minnesota, just like what you're doing, security actually has been one of the things that we were told was going to be our biggest concern going in the cloud. And I'll tell you, from my perspective, running operations for the state of Minnesota, it's been one of the transformative things that we've gotten out of going to the cloud. A couple big things and many, many small things is, you mentioned disaster recovery, right? It was just cost prohibitive for us to have disaster recovery of our systems in our on-premise data centers. But we're building out solutions where even if we feel like we have to stay on-prem for compliance reasons, getting the ability to have our data secured with encryption, much cheaper than I could do on-prem, and having all of those things so that we can actually fail over to the cloud as an option for us has been a huge transformative thing for us. And as we're building out our model, we've put in a lot of the security controls that we have not had 100% across our on-premise environment. So everything that goes into the cloud actually has checking for the security controls that we consider mandatory before it even goes into the cloud. And we actually have the ability to turn it off if some reason those controls aren't there, so that we can make sure that we are secure. Our governor and our IT CIO has stated that cybersecurity is one of our top priorities because of all the things in the news and things that you read about every day, and it has got to be our priority. We are the stewards of the citizens' data at the state of Minnesota. I don't own any of it, but I'm held responsible for protecting it. So in the end, I have to make sure security controls are in place. The thing that I learned through this process of going to Amazon Web Services and other cloud providers was we can actually do better security in the cloud done right, that we haven't had that ability in our data centers for a long time because of data center sprawl. Having multiple data centers and trying to get those security controls across all of them was just cost prohibitive. By doing it through cloud services. We can have the model consistent across all of our applications, across all of our infrastructure, and making sure that we have it available. And the other thing that we've never had the ability to do on premise was to turn it off easily, automatically, automated, if it has a security problem, where that's been a more manual process in our data center. One final thing back to security would be that we've taken some of the things that we've learned through cloud services and tried to bring them back on premise, because there are some things that we're still struggling with getting the federal government to allow us to use cloud services. Not that we are unwilling, but some external entity isn't allow us to do it. So we're trying to make sure that we're bringing some of those controls that we didn't have historically on-prem. I would say it's not only transformed our ability to go forward, but actually moved into our historic environments and taken some of those controls back.
To add on to that just a little bit, that having the cloud is sort of a green field that as you go into it, you can sort of architect the security into everything as you move it in is a great thing, just to be able to make sure you're doing it right. GlobalGiving, we've been very security conscious for probably as long as I've been there, which is like 8 years. We're PCI compliant, so we're trying to make sure everything's done at least to that compliance, actually beyond. But being able to, as we go into the cloud, we're able to do it better. We're able to control how it's done a lot better and by keeping costs down. A lot of the things when we first became PCI compliant, when we first needed to become PCI compliant, there was a lot of capital investment to buy all of the right hardware to separate out the networks and put all the security controls in place. But as we're moving into the cloud, just sort of putting those things in place with each component that goes in is so much easier to do, and it's not just this massive cost prohibitive thing that's happening. So it's just worked out way better for us in that sense. Just the security is so much easier that way. It's also enabled us to sort of work with other, everyone okay? It's enabled us to work with other partners that can do security scanning better for us, to monitor our policies, to make sure that we're keeping up with them, enforce them, change any policies back if someone happens to go in there and mess around with stuff.
Okay, security is our main concern. But security is our main concern not today. Security has been the main concern always, because we are storing data from kids. Our concern is not because we are based on cloud. Our concern is because we are aware the increasing of cyber attacks globally. In this sense, we implemented a security office as a service 2 years ago. We are running ethical hacking regularly, black box and gray box testing. And also, we already have an in-house testing quality teams. We are running white box testing regularly as well in each solution that we are running in our marketplaces. In addition to this, we are certified, or we have certified the majority of our solutions for the main bodies such as Trusty, with the Trusty Kits certification. And also Amazon Web Services is already certified for the majority of international bodies from a security standpoint. That's the way we are covering the whole security spectrum. But of course, we are very concerned about the security because, as I mentioned before, we are storing data from kids. And our next challenge is how to implement automatically the recheck of our solutions. This is the main challenge today for us.
Blake, maybe just one other comment. I think it's a good time to inject this. Look, Canada, we're extremely concerned right now about the way our internet is structured, right? We're a north-south agenda. Our internet is a United States agenda, period. We have very little sovereign capability to manage our IXPs, our internet, in a way that the content is resident north of the border. So, you know, setting up a region is critically important, but what we do with the IXPs, with the exchanges now, is critically important as well. So when you talk about security in the foundation of the security agenda, you know, it's alarming when you're building your entire economy on the internet and you don't have control of any kind, really, over the, you know, the agenda. 75% of everything we say, 71.3, I think was the latest quote from CIRA, the Canadian Internet Registration Authority, that everything we send east-west in our own country actually goes south of the border, across, and then back up. So if I send a note from Halifax to Vancouver, or if I send it across Halifax or across Toronto, chances are it's coming down to the United States and transiting back. There's 1,000 reasons for that. Some are related to the economies of how telcos make money on transit, et cetera. But that agenda, as we build a sovereign state, especially when the United States is the #1 target in the world, whether we like it or not, the reality is that you're a provocative nation and you do good things for the world. And while you're doing that, you got to fight some enemies along the way. I'm a soldier, I know all about it. So the fact that that's the truth means that you're a hell of a target. So our economy is tied to that target right now. We have very little control over it as we continue to build out on the internet. So we have to think very seriously about the very foundation. So when we think about the cloud and cloud transformation and the agenda and how we get our content and where we peer, how we peer, all of these things become important. And it's not just as simple as starting a service. It's actually foundational to the fiber, the satellite comms, everything that we set up around it. So this is a very serious agenda that we all need to take a very hard look at as we go forward. And so I just wanted to layer that in because you had the security question. Thanks.
Yeah, Al, thank you. So we also heard a lot about data today, you know, how you look at data, how you store data, how you manipulate data. So if you would, just spend a couple minutes telling us about how your organization uses data and how the cloud enables you to analyze and store and manipulate data.
Go ahead.
Okay, sure. So I talked about that, you know, we have all this data that comes in from project leaders, they submit reports, and we have other things too. We have due diligence data for when people are filling out applications to be on our platform, and we have emails that are sent to people. We collect lots of data, just that our platform generates or people give to us. And, you know, the storage and there's a lot of things around keeping that secure, but I think the thing that's the cloud has really enabled us to do is the freeing up of people's times, of making people more efficient when they're using that data. We're able to present, when people who work for us need to look at data, we're able to extract out certain key terms that they need when they're reviewing text and sort of highlight them for them, or present them with various statistics about that information. And that's all enabled through the use of Lambda functions and machine learning algorithms and things. So that's one of the biggest things that we've gotten out of that.
So for the state of Minnesota, I mentioned earlier, I mean, we are the stewards of the data for the citizens of the state of Minnesota. And historically, I've mentioned a couple different times, we have multiple data centers that house this data. And we've struggled for years to use the data. I mean, if you are a citizen, there's a fair chance that you are in probably 30 plus systems in my state. And all the exact same data is there for each of the systems because they're housed separately. So what we've tried to do as we transform our organization into more cloud services and using the data is also trying to bring our business partners together to talk about how they can share data, how they can use data together. Our CIO talks all the time about how if somebody gets unemployed, so they're on our unemployment insurance application, and then they're probably also going to be on our human services, Medicaid or Medicare type of services as well. And those data are separate today. And if you have those data, they have to fill out the exact same data over and over again. It doesn't feel like one service from one state. It feels like services from multiple companies that they have to deal with. So we are trying to use our data as we have it today, as we transform into the cloud, to bring those linkages together. But it's not just a technology problem. It's really a problem of getting people and process together as well. We are enabling that ability using the cloud, but it's also getting legislators and the people who run these different services from the state of Minnesota to use their data more efficiently. And ultimately, from a person who wants to be cost conscious as well, saving that data 30 different times in 30 different ways is not a cost effective either. So finding a way to actually merge some of this data for a single ID for state or for citizens is a model that we'd like to move forward with. I know other states are trying to do that too. It's a big part of what we're trying to do, and I think the transformation in the cloud is allowing us to do some of it.
Okay, as I mentioned before, we are running almost 50 solutions in our product portfolio. All of them are rely in intensive use of data. And also we are storing commercial data. In fact, when you are moving your business into digital, it's mandatory as well to store together these kind of things. In this sense, we have been implementing for the last 2 years strong database engines. We are using Aurora today as a SQL database, and DynamoDB as a not SQL database. We don't have any concern anymore regarding data with the implementation of these database engines. Our next challenge here is how to improve the learning student journey throughout things like machine learning. We are working on it. We are looking for this kind of solutions. We don't have any solution so far in our umbrella, and eventually, thanks to the use of the cloud, we expect to solve this problem in the midterm.
I think only you guys have covered it all. I think there's a couple other minor things I'd like to bring up. One is we need evidence-based decision-making, period, across our society. You know, the cloud brings us a very unique opportunity with the introduction of IoT and all these sensors, right? We're about to implement, I can't wait, by the way, just to show you the type of character I could be. The first day I get to smoke a joint legally in Canada, I'm going to do it because I'm an Army guy, right? So I've never been allowed to do that. So I can't wait to smoke a doobie with my, you know, it's going to be fun. So the reason I'm bringing it up is that I'm actually...
You're going to make your own cloud.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, yeah. And by the way, what's really, by the way, we're going to be able to do it in our country because they're going to federally legalize it, and then the provinces are going to do it. It's not the other way around, right? So you're not sure if you're going to jail or not. So I really like that thing in Colorado. I'm just not sure if I can smoke one there. Look, I wanted to bring it up because the whole marijuana agenda as an example is just laden with all kinds of sensors, and their attack vector. They are an attack target because there's all kinds of activism that doesn't want them around, et cetera, et cetera. Money's going to be made by governments on this, you know, et cetera. There's all kinds of activism around it. At the same time, you know, an unregulated, uncontrolled environment, unsensed or mismanaged data could be, imagine if the first package from New Brunswick shows up south of the border, you know, with an RFID tag that went way astray and it's sitting in Maine, who hasn't adopted it, hasn't legalized it. You got international incidents, you got big issues associated with regulating that product, right? So a reason I bring it up is that it's a massive opportunity to sense and get all this data and then make good decisions with it based on, you know, real logistical patterns, because we can measure everything. We can measure water flow, we can see it grow, I can show video, you know, it's going to be a beautiful thing. So when I look at all those pieces and I look at the opportunity, it's tremendous. When I think about security, when I look about the security agenda on this, I want to take the data and I want to make a gold star energy rating system for security. What's missing in the security environment is true accountability, liabilities, that sort of thing. We got a whole bunch of crap. And 95% of the security industry is crap. It's endpoint security devices, period, that don't solve the problem of security. And we're being sold a bill of goods by our own commercial systems that are not being held accountable to any sort of quality standard. That's calling out a big issue. I'm working with Mark Anderson at Palo Alto and a few others on this to build an Energy Star rating type approach to the security agenda, reputation-based, et cetera, that calls out you know, the industry that doesn't perform where it should. In the defense security industry, we would never tolerate it. It would never exist. You just would not be allowed in, right? If you failed, you would never sell the product again. And I don't understand why we can continue to sell cybersecurity products that are not fixing the problem. So I want to use the data that I'm collecting in this cyber essential stuff with my teams and for the country to build a better Canada and a better United States and a better Western democracy that's protected. And we're going to call out the systems that don't work. That's very important. That's one agenda I've got in my bonnet. There's a bunch of others, but I'll leave it at that one.
Great, thank
And
you.
marijuana, right?
Thank you very much, panel. So we are at the end of our time. If anyone has one question that might be applicable to most or all of our panelists that's really pressing, that doesn't involve taking a bong hit, we have time for a question here. So all of your questions had to do with marijuana? Okay. All right, well, once again, I'd like to thank the panelists today. Please give them a round of applause. This has been great. I think in addition to all of the services in Canada, dual Canadian regions, we talked about Africa, I think longer sessions would be fantastic because there's a wealth of experience and knowledge and information coming from this panel that I'd love to sit here for hours and hear from you guys. So thank you all very much.